Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe, episode 23.
So when I tell people, that, yeah, you can eat junk and, and still look, great on the outside, but in the inside is going to really show, so much. It's going to be a telltale sign.
It's time to reverse the imbalances in your life as you take the first step on your own journey towards personal change. Welcome to Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe, educating, empowering, and inspiring individuals to live healthier. Now here are your hosts and your guides to natural living, Jamal and Kim.
Hi, Kim and Jamal here, and welcome to another episode of Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe podcast. Today, we have another one for you today, another great interview. Today, we are joined by Wale. Wale, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me.
No doubt. Greetings, my brother.
So before we begin, what I like to do is I like to share with our audience a little bit about Wale, to know about the powerful work that he's doing and a little bit about him. Wale was born in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York. He was a team amateur bodybuilder finalist and two-time collegiate gold medalist at 18. Wale has competed at boxing, martial arts, and mixed martial arts matches and tournaments. He has won an amateur boxing belt in his mid-30s. Since the age of 7, Wale was attracted to political change. Wale had managed to work every level of local or state electoral campaign, including campaign manager, with an above-average success rate without ever graduating from college. He worked in the New York State Assembly for 6 years. In 2001, after a year of fostering his vision of an artist union, recognizing the mistreatment of artists, Omowale spearheaded the Grassroots movement, also known as GAME, with other organizers and artists. The fledgling organization received significant recognition in the organizing world and music industry, particularly hip-hop. GAME accomplished providing health care to artists for a short time and helped artists understand the politics of the music industry. Their change in adopting projects to help young people of color redefine themselves still blossoms today. In 2004, Wale's first published work was featured in Socialism and Democracy's 36th issue, Hip Hop, Race, and Cultural Politics. Last year, Wale sought to help any and everyone become vegan through a host of media and communications with the Go Veg 2014 campaign. He resides in the city of New York with his wife and kids as a small urban farmer, trainer, and community organizer.
Yeah, greetings, my brother. It's gonna look forward to this show today.
Yes.
Same here. Thank you.
And good to have you on. Lately, a lot of our shows, we've had a lot of people on that are doing some amazing things physically, while the base of their diet is plants. And I think it's good to expose that. And to show people that, you can be just as strong or even stronger on a plant-based diet, and you could take your health to the next level, because there's just so many myths out there that counter that and say it's not true. And it just creates this image of how people are supposed to be on plant-based, and it really kind of pushes people away from it and turns them off. Mm-hmm. So it's really good to expose the truth out there that has been hidden for a long time. So, right. I know a lot of our a lot of our listeners, they don't know who you are. Who is Omowale? So why don't you just tell us your story and just kind of what led you on the path of health and wellness, and, how did you get into veganism? What's your story? Talk to us.
Well, I became a vegetarian first. This is so a little bit about me. I would say I was 15, and about 22 years ago, I had a conversation with my older brother, and we were talking about just longevity and eating healthy and being around. I really don't. You really don't remember exactly, how the conversation began. Mm-hmm. But I know after that conversation with my brother, and I was in Florida at the time, and he was, I believe he was living in New York. I had, of course, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, but I went and I lived in Florida for a time, West Palm and Riviera Beach, and that was the time I actually became vegetarian. So right after that conversation, I had dropped, meat immediately, just like that, and I started working out, and I wasn't working out prior to then. Maybe on and off, I did a little bit, but I really was pretty much just average kid, except for, not trying to, not really working out, maybe just some, running around and, in track and playing basketball. But I really focused on bodybuilding, and in a few years, I was really muscular, and I had put on so much weight, and so I'm really, in terms of my physiology, I'm really just I'm a slim guy. I'm really a slim guy. Who would call me skinny, and so I was really big around that time. After 15, I would say around 18, 19, it just got bigger and bigger, and probably up in 20 and 21, so, maybe my largest, the largest at that particular time. And it was all off of mainly a plant-based lifestyle. Because I was still, I still had dairy, and I still had eggs and that sort of thing. Later on, I would just maybe almost 3 years ago, I became vegan, and I became vegan because the excuse I was giving people why I became vegetarian was, just that conversation, and I wanted to be healthy. But in the back of my mind, I was also thinking, as I did, a little bit more research, I really didn't have a really good grasp on what vegetarianism was, veganism, through that time. So those years was just, me eating, literally when I started out, I was eating, white rice, green beans out of a can, and I was eating Jiffy, cornbread, regularly. That was my staple diet, and I got pretty big off that. Peanut butter and jelly. I was eating. What else? I had honey buns and so on and so forth. So when I tell people, that you can eat junk and and still look great on the outside, but in the inside is going to really show so much. It's going to be a telltale sign, and I actually had high blood pressure, and that really created a lot of high blood pressure, not just during that time, but before that, growing up in, Crown Heights, Brooklyn, where we love to say so much, folks that, our community, folks from the hood, is that, I remember, eating, quart of waters and, pizza and, the different candies, Boston, what is it called?
The Boston baked beans.
Baked beans, those, and so many of the different candies and all that junk, ice cream and stuff. Like I literally would indulge in all that stuff. So I had hypertension at that particular time. At 18, that's a young age to have hypertension.
Yeah.
It's that that's serious. So when I talk about this a lot of times with people who, feel like they look great, they look, good enough. I'm like, you're just young. You don't know right now.
Right.
You feeling that and you're working out. The body is so awesome and so incredible that it can, turn so much, garbage into, amino acids. That's what, half of the amino acids does. It takes garbage and turn it into real aminos. But it catches up with us. So I had hypertension. And then when I became vegan, almost, about 2.5 years ago, I felt so incredible, within the first month. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I had to tell people, I had to help people. And so that's really, the story that I give to people, and, so they can kind of understand, on so many levels, how, you can make this, you can make a transformation, but also you can feel like, you're just, you're so strong and you look physically, great, but that's not the entire diagnostic of yourself. That's not the, like, how are you feeling internally as well?
Yeah. I think that you really touched on a lot of important things, and particularly when you talk about veganism, because a lot of times when people look at a vegan diet, in their mind, they're just thinking, I'm not eating meat. And what I find is, because we have a holistic center in New Jersey, we see a lot of people, and I find that a lot of vegans are really what we call junk food vegans, where they eat a lot of things that aren't as healthy, and they eat a lot of processed foods. So we kind of coined the term called whole food vegans, and just the importance of eating whole foods on a vegan diet, and we really gravitate toward the term plant-based, because that really expresses that the main part of your diet is vegetables, vegetation, and just pointing out that you can be on a non-meat diet and still be unhealthy on the inside. So it's important to know when you're taking this journey to being more plant-based and eating more of a vegan diet, that you're eating whole foods and healing foods, so that it can take your health to the next level like you experienced. Right. Now, just being a practitioner now of health and an athlete, and just kind of reflecting and looking at, our country as a whole, how do you feel like the state of health is in our country right now?
Well, there's two ways that I really, would love to, attack this, but I got to be so honest. At the same time, I don't want to alarm people, but it's really bleak, right now. And the main reason is because I know people look at it like, McDonald's is doing worse, and in terms of in numbers, but they're not doing bad enough. Yeah. They can be doing a lot worse.
Right.
They're still doing, pretty well, still doing exceptional if you compare them to some of the, the healthier places in our community. There's some vegan shops that are closed down, and when they close down, they don't have franchises.
Right. That's it.
Someone said this, and I might have thought this before, but I never actually, internalized it. But they said that when you go vegan, even if you're not necessarily, doing the healthiest, type of, particular, I hate to use diet so much, healthiest type of, lifestyle, you're still doing better than you were doing before.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's some of these shops that are around that, we tend to call, like, they sell comfort food.
Right.
So they're transition foods.
Yeah.
These transition foods are still better than the crap you were eating before.
Right.
Before you were eating blood and guts and so on and so forth, and that was messing up our whole system. It was messing with our mind as well. And even if the stuff is not, terribly, good in terms of, the oils and so on and so forth, we fry them, before we were frying cholesterol foods. So you went from frying cholesterol foods to now you're frying foods that don't have cholesterol. Now, that is still a leap. That is still, a change, but you still have to, wake people up to that. Just like myself, and I'm no different than a lot of people, you start out going, I feel like a lot of people that I know, they start out going, I'm going to go vegan. And then after a while, they said, you know what? I need to focus on organic foods.
Right.
And then they start thinking about, organic food. It allows you to start thinking about a healthier lifestyle. You start thinking about, I want to stay on the planet, long. I got so many things to look forward to, family and so on and so forth, but general the bleak part, that's a small percentage. First, that's a small percentage, unfortunately in the U.S. But the overwhelming percentage, is 69%, of the community is of folks that are in the U.S. are overweight, and 47%, 47.8% are obese. Some of these statistics are, in my book. And that's horrible, and those are statistics from 2012, so, and it's only been getting, worse, and worse. And it's just, a lot of this was, and it's been getting worse incredibly fast. When they started, it's not like fast food didn't start in the 70s, but they began to, look at it, more, and they saw a huge jump in the 70s, and people were just basically eating out, and they weren't eating at home, and they were making their food, so they didn't know what they were even putting in, in their bodies.
Right.
And so you had more than half people that they surveyed at that time. They found out that they would, they had some food that was eaten out. They were eating outside so much. I basically I can't remember the last time that I've eaten out, and I'm not saying that it's not okay to eat out, what I mean, go out and, here and there, but that should be like, we do that sometimes,
right.
do that sometimes, but generally you have to have your food indoors. You
right.
have to know, shouldn't it make sense? Like if you don't leave your children, with people you don't know,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I mean? So same thing is like you don't leave their bodies, you don't leave your body, to food and people putting food in your body. You don't even know where it comes from.
Yeah, you don't know
what it is.
Yeah.
So that is incredibly, important. But I think that's what we're doing a lot in the U.S. and I mean, I think it's catastrophic. A lot of folks and a lot of people who contact me, they have heart disease issues. I had a brother contacting me recently, maybe a week and a half ago, and he once said to me that he doesn't even eat vegetables. He doesn't eat vegetables, and he was serious. Like, I don't like vegetables. You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
he came to my home one time. And I was holding one of the Mayweather fights some years ago. I remember him saying this, and he was serious.
Yeah,
he was not playing around. You know what I'm saying? But the sad thing is, the brother was basically like, physically and then internally, like, he expressed to me, what I'm saying, like, a week and a half ago, what it was doing to him.
Right.
And he wanted to go into vegan. This was, if I had to think of anybody who would not mess with veganism at all, it would be him.
Yeah.
For him to reach out to me, you know what I mean? And he, of course, he's not the only one, but he's just a primary, example, after people. If you give people, this information, people will, it will chip away at them. And then they will go to the doctor and they would, they would see it. They would like, I figured that. Then they would look at it like, wow, and start to think like, oh my goodness, look at my LDL is so high. My HDL is so low. And, look, I have, heart disease, my cholesterol was, through the roof, hypertension, so many different issues that, that they have. And then after a while, I think it really, but I think the problem is they don't see that on television. What they see is, commercials for Kentucky Fried Chicken, Popeyes,
Right.
McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, and so on and so forth. And they just see that. And I think that's what the problem is. That's what's holding a lot of people back.
Yeah. The media, the imagery that people are being presented with. That's why, shows like this and having you on are so important to reinforce that other side and the actual healing properties of food. Food can be your medicine or it can be your poison.
Right.
We had a client recently that came in about a month ago, and we put him on a plant-based diet. It wasn't even like a strict vegan diet. It was just a plant-based diet, and within a month, his cholesterol dropped 100 points. And, you know, and I think it's important, and I'm sure you see it too. You know, when people come to us, it's like they're coming to us in dire straits, like they have no other choice. And we try to encourage people, you know, empower yourself now. You know, make those transitions now, so you don't have to be on the back end struggling and fighting for your life. You know, so. You have a book out, and I'm sure all of these experiences and your development has led to you actually writing this book. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the book, the name of it, why you wrote it, and let's discuss it a little bit.
Okay, so I had trouble trying to really get a title, and I said, you know, what title actually, you know, works, you know, best to kind of encompass, you know, what I really want to share with folks. And I came up with an introduction to veganism and agricultural globalism. And the reason why I came up with that term is that I wanted to give people, well, I tell people all the time, I really wasn't giving them, you know, like recipes. Now I started giving people a little bit more recipes and so on and so forth. But I really wanted people to take a step and just, you know, throw food inside of a pot, make a stew, do a simple, you know, sauteing, you know, stir fry that can be done in, you know, less than 10 minutes, you know, because if you can do that, I mean, you're going to be able to do so much more. If I just give you just the you know, the little bit of the little bit. And then people were just, you know, asking me, you know, like, how do I start? They ask me about, you know, I mean, fighters all the time, you know, ask me, you know, wow, like, because it blows their mind. Like, how do you look like that? You know, and you're a vegan. Like, it doesn't even make sense to them, but it makes perfect sense, you know, to me, and, you know, to you guys and folks you know, who accept this type of lifestyle. Yeah. And, but I also wanted to capture, and I explained that in the preface, that I also wanted to capture what's going on in terms of globalism. So I read this book years ago. And sometime in college, I read the Debt Trap by Cheryl Payer. And I still don't even know how she looks, you know, but I know she wrote this incredible book, and then she later, you know, wrote some other books that were also awesome, dealing with globalism. And I got all of them. So I got all of them, and I began researching those pieces, you know, as well. And I had to, you know, relook at, you know, the Debt Trap, and the Debt Trap really goes into exactly how does the U.S. become a hegemony? How does the U.S. become, you know, imperialist, and how does it, you know, maintain this amount of power? How does it have all these resources, and why are these other countries, you know, poor? When I read that book, it was so clear to me. I had to piece that book into some other books, Overturn the Culture, you know, of Violence, you know, by Penny Hassan, and Why I Became a Revolutionary by Chairman Omowale Adewale. And at this particular time, I was in the Uhuru movement. Uhuru means freedom. And so, you know, I read these different texts and a lot of these pieces, and I said, I don't want to read rhetoric. You know what I mean? Rhetoric is cool. Like, I could go somewhere and I heard some of the best speakers, you know what I mean? Some of the, you know, incredible speakers, wow, they can grab you. Yeah. You know, and I'm thinking in my head, you know, I need stuff that's tangible, that gets people, that really, you know, explains people that people internalize something, they don't make that change. They don't go backwards. Right. You know, they go forward. Right. So in this book, that's what I wanted to do, and really explain, and so much in terms of globalism, how the U.S. basically, you know, sets up systems. They utilize Monsanto. Monsanto is not the only one.
Right.
There's Syngenta, and there's a bunch of other biotech firms and what they do. And I'll give you one piece. So obviously the first half of the book, right, deals with veganism, how to get people to become vegan. It gives out, a lot of different, and it's a totally research book with citations. And so I also go into the agricultural globalism part, that aspect. And I'll give you one piece that that makes it clear in terms of how evil, I would say evil in terms of how imperialism is that Monsanto, when they go and they drop GMO seed in India, right, they're doing that with the WTO, the World Trade Organization. They're doing that with FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization. These are supranationals. Yeah. So they work with all these different, they work on an international landscape. And so they work at the behest of U.S., but they pretend that they don't, of course. And so what they do is when Monsanto drops GMO seed in India, and they have these farmers that they basically are changing their whole landscape, because they do that through their government as well. So it affects the entire country, and they legalize it. They're legalizing. You read the piece and you understand how, the actual laws that are international and then the laws that are made national within India. Basically, when farmers, these places are 3/4 of farmers. Right. So when they have GMO seeds, now what happens when you put a GMO seed into the land? Everything becomes GMO. Right. Anything that grows there is GMO. So what happens is you have a patent now. Now GMO seed is a patent. So it's patented. Seeds are generally not patented. If I grew some non-GMO seed, there's no patent on it. Right. Nobody's going to come and take my. So what happens with India? Now that's a place of you're talking about over 1 billion people now. You're talking about over 1/7 of the world in India. So because they run, the farmers are become this. It turns into feudalism. So they're tied to the land. Right. They have to run this land. Now, if they don't buy GMO seeds, they can't eat. Right. They now have to buy GMO seeds. They now have to buy GMO seeds from Monsanto or whatever big agriculture business or biotech firm. They have to keep producing that, okay? Because it's now GMO seeds. Right. It's all GMO seeds, okay? And so the Food and Agriculture Organization, which is of the UN, the United Nations. Sometimes I don't want to just say acronyms and so on and so forth and abbreviations without spelling that out. So what they'll do is the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, what they do is they put up funds, but the funds don't go to the farmers. They just go to equipment. So all the people who handle equipment stuff, those people are coming over from the U.S. They getting these subsidies, these subsidized money, all this equipment that goes into the ground. The farmers, they now have to compete on a global scale, and they can't. So therefore, what you have in the last 16 years, 250,000 farmers have been committing suicide because they just cannot. They can't do it. Their land are being taken from them. Once they can't continue to purchase more seeds, once they cannot keep up with this particular economy, this is what happens. And so, and then I go into some other countries as well. But I think that's the best example that I can give that a lot of people just don't know in terms of what's going on. I mean, of course, I go into China in terms of how China plays an aspect in it. I go into Russia. I go into so many different. I go all into the EU, European Union, Australia. And I basically in Latin America, going and picking out Brazil, and a lot of other different countries. Essentially, I go on every single continent. because I wanted to make it clear in terms of what we're talking about. When I say globalism, it's globalism. It's it's a takeover. You know what I mean? And it's made to be a very small planet that are run by a very small few.
Right. And I think that what you're doing is important, because there is definitely a disconnect from the food that's on our table and what's going on for it to get there, and what's in our food, what's being done with our food on a global level. So I think that it's powerful that you're talking about this in your book, and that you're talking about it now to bring more awareness. We have to have more awareness and more connection to the process of what's getting the food on our table and what's being done behind the scenes to change the food that's being put on our tables, because a lot of times we could take things for granted. And one of the things that you brought up was GMO. And I know we have a lot of listeners that aren't familiar with that term. Can you talk about GMO a little bit, exactly what it is and why people need to understand that?
Yes. So very briefly, and that is one of the abbreviations I didn't bring up. Explain. It's genetically modified organisms. And so people also refer to it as genetically engineered, foods or genetically engineered crops. And so what these are, basically, you're talking about the DNA. You're talking about essentially taking the DNA from 2 or more plants and essentially creating a totally new species, basically of a crop. And GMOs are basically all designed, regardless of what people, say, they're all designed for profit. They're not done to address hunger. They're 250,000 farmers, commit suicide. They're not, they're helping to keep people around on the planet.
Right.
And these GMOs are dangerous in so many ways. So, of course, they're dangerous in the ways that I laid out, but they're also in terms of in ingesting them. There's so many other complications that are coming to light, and India had really started on this for some time, and there's a film that comes out, because some people might want to see a film on it as well. It's called The True Cost. And so this came out earlier this year. And I had stumbled on it, during my research, and I couldn't wait to see it. And so it comes out, it's beautifully made. So what GMOs essentially does, and so so in my book, I break down to, there's some centers that are around around the globe, and the U.S. is it's interesting because there's some places all around the globe, in Australia, all over Europe, and Africa is creating it, because unfortunately Africa is going to start doing more GMO. Now, before, it was only Egypt, South Africa, and I'm going to forget this other country is small, and that was it. And so now, when Nigeria and Ghana jump on board, you're talking about the two, there's a big powers in terms of the sub-Saharan Africa, that have a lot of leeway in terms of in terms of Africa as a whole. A lot of these countries, are going to follow Nigeria and Ghana. And no, Mozambique is going to follow. Namibia is also following. And so, but this GMO is going to affect in such a way. But I'm sorry. I had lost track a little bit, but in terms of all these different places, what they're doing is they're doing research and keeping the information in there, informing people. So that's why Europe jumped a lot of folks in Europe, and Europe did do a lot of GMO, and some that but a lot of them jumped out.
Yeah.
A lot of the EU have jumped out because they're informing their people. We don't inform anyone here. The government doesn't inform people on GMO
at all.
So when they do that, and inform people basically say, "Nah, I think I'm going to opt out."
Right.
And then I'm going to do non-GMO. And that's why I think the U.S. said, no, we can't have GMO labeling here because the people are just not going to mess with it. Why would they?
Right.
Actually, it's a significant percentage of people in the U.S. that basically say they don't believe it.
Right.
They don't even believe that the government would do that.
Right, right. Yeah. It's true. Very large percentage. And I think it's a good point to bring up. There are a lot of major companies that are fighting to not label food so that you don't know and you don't have a choice.
Yes.
So this is all good stuff, and I'm happy that we're bringing this issue up to our listeners for the first time, so that people can become more conscious of GMOs. And now when they look at a label and it says, non-GMO, no GMOs, they'll be more aware of that and know exactly what that means.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So a person picks up your book and, this is going to help them to make that transition into eating more plant-based or to become vegan if they want.
Oh yes, definitely. If people, what in this particular book, I don't really defend veganism. As I say in here, veganism, defends itself. One of the things that people should do is that veganism is not going to harm you, if you try it. If you eat food, some people might say things like, "Oh my goodness, my mind, I couldn't do this," and it was messing with my. Well, one of the things is what's happening is that a lot of the foods that you eat, chemically f you up.
Yeah.
It really messes you up. It has you addicted to it. Those additives, it really make you addicted. So what happens when you you go through withdrawal?
Yeah.
What happens when you no longer eat particular foods that you used to, or use certain drugs that you were used to? What is going to happen to you? Those are one of the issues that's going to happen. People might say, "Oh, I was hungry. I was hungry a lot of time." Well, that was based on calories.
Right.
If you're not getting you're not getting enough, calories. You're not getting 2,000 calories. It's the food that that you're eating. Of course, if you ate meat, that's probably going to be your biggest benefit, which is not a benefit at all. That you're going to get a lot of calories.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of calories, that way. And protein, because protein takes a longer time to break down and digest, you're getting a lot of protein from that. You are essentially going to be you're going to be less hungry. You're going to be less hungry, if you have a lot of protein. And that's any kind of protein.
Right.
It's just that there's a lot of protein in that burger, and that's not necessarily a good thing because the protein that we tend to eat in the U.S. in terms of all folks in the U.S., people eat too much protein. I should never hear anyone talking about, does this have protein? How do I get protein and so on and so forth? Strawberries have protein.
Right.
It's foods in everything. Like I had to even stop saying, complete proteins because things had complete proteins.
Right.
Foods have complete proteins. What you're talking about, it don't have a significant amount of protein. You don't need a significant amount of protein, in your foods. You need more of a variety of foods.
Right.
That's what you need. That's what people are really missing. You're missing fruits and vegetables. You're missing a lot of these whole grains. You know what I mean? So if you eat a lot of these grains and these kind of breads, these white breads and this white rice and all this other stuff, we get Chinese restaurant on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Yeah, if we get off of that, the MSG, that monosodium, glutamate, then that's going to mess with our mind because we leaving that alone. It's going to have so much, effect. So the book goes into a lot of this, and it points out some of the it helps people in terms of protein wise, lists of 10, but it also explains that what people need to be focused on is really just eating whole foods and trying to get more fruits and more vegetables, into their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because if you're not a bodybuilder, if you're not a bodybuilder and a weightlifter, you shouldn't be worried about protein.
Right.
The way people are. I'm like, I don't even have to worry about protein like that. Even fighters are not worried about proteins like that unless they're going up in weight.
Right.
If you're going up in weight, then you have to worry about that. You know what I mean? If you're not doing that, you're not pounding it like that, you're not in the gym like that, you're not messing with, these weight training, heavy. You don't need to worry about that, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of folks, out there, women and men, who are phenomenal athletes. They're not worried about protein.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's the last thing they're thinking about. Yeah. So, as a mixed martial artist,
yes.
Which is it's a brutal sport. I know it takes a lot. It takes a physical toll, a lot of training. You're being hit. We're talking about recovery, things of that nature, elite training to compete on top levels. How has it been as a mixed martial artist over the past 2.5 years since you went strict vegan?
What's been interesting, I remember, and I've got beat up pretty bad, man, all over. Even from boxing, all over. You get hit. And veganism, I really have, there's no way I can compare. I'm sure a lot of vegans can kind of compare, when I got into those, especially into the heat of those sports, I was already vegan.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 3 years, I've really been competing more than any time in my life, and so I've been able to, let me put it this way. I had a fight on, the 7th?
Mm-hmm.
I had a fight on the 7th, and then I was back on the 14th.
For another fight?
From mixed martial arts and then into kickboxing.
Wow.
Normally that's a no-go. You can't do that. You might be able to do that with boxing. It depends on how many rounds. It depends on, how, or how many rounds you win and how brutal was it, so I went all 3 rounds, in mixed martial arts, and then I went to kickboxing, and I got a TKO in that match. I lost the 3-rounder, and mixed martial arts is a lot harder than boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love boxing. I come from boxing. I come from boxing, but it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Because I done had my elbow on my and it almost pulled out my socket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People try to on your neck, and you feel that for a while. Ribs. Ribs, that can happen in boxing. Shoulder, that can happen in boxing. Your face, you're going to take more punches in the face probably, boxing a lot of times. It depends. But that last match, I got hit all over, a lot of, we went all the way. So that's why in MMA, it's only going to go to 3 or 5.
Right.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because MMA it's a lot more exhausting. Yeah. But I was able to bounce right back. And one of the biggest examples that I probably have, besides that one, was that I had a fight and my ribs. I thought my ribs was, I don't know when it was going to heal. Wow. It was just I was so messed up, and it healed in a month and a half or something, and I was good, and I couldn't believe it. I was walking around like even if and it was fractured because I went to the doctor. So we go to the doctor all the time. Mm-hmm. In the fight game, you got to go to the doctor, right before any fight. You can't mess around with that.
Yeah.
They don't play. And so that's one of the ways I've known that I was healthy. They're going to take blood. You know what I mean? Everything has to be perfect on blood, on your heart, and just passing those and being able to, compete is so huge. And I'm fighting with guys. I never fought with a guy who was younger than me. I was older than me. We're all younger. My opponents, always generally are 10 years younger than me. So I'm messing with the cream of the crop. These are future champions that I'm fighting with, in New York. And so it means a lot when I talk about veganism being, if not able to compete and heal just as fast as an omnivore or carnivore. Then, or even better, being able to, because a lot of people talked about the recovery periods being so fast, and I could definitely attest to that. A lot of times, I had broken fingers, broken toes, ribs, my tendon is snapped, boxing.
My goodness.
Wasn't repaired. Hits, in the head and the face, and I was still able to do a research book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow. With no problem. So I don't know. Veganism has been working very well for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question, Wale. I've been eating plant-based, I guess, for over 10 years. And, but I remember before when I used to eat meat, I was more aggressive, and just how I moved out through my day. And, so MMA boxing is such an aggressive sport. Like you have to put a switch on in your mind when you go into the ring. Did you feel like it was a shift in terms of how you competed when you switched to plant-based, or, did you notice anything?
What's so interesting? Somebody asked me that recently. I had to be really honest. And I always tell people, of course, I'm teaching young people, not just my kids, but I do a program, alternative to incarceration project. So young people who've been, and this is mostly Black and Latino young people in New York City. So I do this in Brooklyn, I do this in Harlem, looking to do this all over. And even when I, intercept young people, on the street as well. But these are folks who've been arrested, they've been adjudicated, so they've been through the system, and now they're coming into my program, and this is a way in terms of working with them in the community instead of sending them up north and having them locked up. So I always tell young people basically, you don't want to don't get in a fight game. Learn the technique, learn it, it's brutal. It's brutal. It could be brutal, for folks, cause people just not ready for it. Like, there's a reason why there's not a lot. There's a lot of people that get in. If you lose, a lot of people, they lose their first match. In anything, they're not getting back in there because it could be tough, but so, another reason, so in terms of what you bring up, somebody asked me, do you have that as a vegan? And I think it really makes you a lot more compassionate,
right?
Being vegan,
right?
And it, excuse my language, it fucks with you, in a big way. So much that I had to really approach my last fight, and I felt like I was going to approach my second to last fight, like that as well. And I was really trying that. And there's a reason why fighting. People don't understand when I'm telling them about the fight game that it's not what you think it is. Like, I know you see it, and even in a person, you just don't internalize it, because there's a reason why God won't shake somebody's hand. It's not because they're because they're being an asshole.
Right.
That's not the reason. If you don't come in with that fight and ready to take somebody's head off, you know what I mean? You giving points to that person.
Right.
And you're not coming at them in the same aggressiveness. You touching hands. Like, we do that. We want to show respect. You want to let them know, like, it's respect. Like, because you'll see after the match, people don't do that. And then after the match is done, they'll touch hands.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, sometimes, I mean, you got exceptions to the few people don't touch hands at all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They just, that's an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
It's an exception to the rule. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm like, you really got to have that kind of like, we're going in there, we're going to kill, you know what I'm saying? Like, you really have to think that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they have a referee will come in there, and when they see somebody getting beat, like, oh, no, that's enough. Okay. They get you back, so you come back to earth.
Right.
Wow.
You know? So I don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, that's why you see folks, they got to psych each other up. They do that. Psych you up. When you go into there and you about to get in the cage, and you going in the ring, people like this, you're going to go kill him. You know what I'm saying? They said this about your mother, this and so on. They just telling you it's in the air. That's why they hyping you up.
Right.
They're not just hyping them up for just promote. Like, you really got to hype somebody up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go hit somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you're going to go hurt somebody, and you're going to stop the person from hurting you, because they hit people. We hit hard.
Right.
You know? So, but I hope that answers, your question is like, it really, like, when you think compassionate, you really have to, you really internalize that. You really come to this. I mean, a lot of people, even if you do it for, health reasons, you end up coming there like, damn, I don't want to kill animals. I don't have to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want these animals. Like, damn, like, what they doing over there? Like, shit, I'm living great. I hop out of the bed. You know what I mean?
Right.
I hopped out. I made my kids breakfast and lunch. You know what I'm saying? Send them off to school like good. Like, I ain't have to eat nothing.
Right.
I had to. You know what I'm saying? I ain't eating no cow meat or nothing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm feeling great. So it's like, I feel like like that is so it's so important. But it's hurt. It's harmful, for the fight game though.
Right.
Fight game. So it's a sacrifice for me. It's a sacrifice for me. You know what I'm saying? It's a real sacrifice, because I always show these guys so much love. They don't show me no disrespect in that.
Yeah.
And I've never been disrespected. At least not to my face. They might be tell their friends like, shit, man, we was kicking his ass. We did this, so on and so forth. Man, he wasn't supposed to win that. That was bullshit. He was nothing. They might say, but. And face-to-face, it's all love, before and after. I've never had any of that, you know what I mean? In over 20 fights, you know what I'm saying? This is boxing, kickboxing, MMA, so... But definitely, you're going to feel more compassionate. So I guess that's the downside. Just don't get in the fight game. Don't get in here, I'm telling you. I tell folks, don't do it. You learn it for the art. Learn it to defend yourself out there in the street. When you learn yourself out in the street, man, everything's easy out there.
Right. Yeah.
Once you learn this, man, your confidence level is up. I mean, like, it's a beautiful feeling.
That's a great perspective. I mean, you really opened up a whole lot by what you just said. It makes perfect sense, and I'll even look at that whole situation differently. Do you work with any women?
I do. I work with women. Actually, what I've been doing is trying to work with men and boys in particular. But when I go to the programs, of course, I definitely, work with girls. And one of the things, and I wish I had another sister, a sister to help me. Not another sister, but a sister to actually help me and work with the girls and the women as well. I have a brother, a couple brothers that also help me with that. And the reason is that because I know about being a man. I don't pretend to know what sisters are going through, especially with understand that the population that I'm working with. This population, young people, I was saying, alternative to incarceration, a lot of people have been hurt really bad. You know what I mean? I can't begin to pretend to understand how much a young sister has been hurt. You know what I mean? To get her into that system. And that in such a way, like, there's so many different issues that sisters are going through that I think a lot of brothers just we don't really understand that. We don't understand that. We pretend to understand it. I see a lot of the memes and stuff like that. We pretend to understand it, but we really don't understand how we look at women as they're just meat. If they don't look beautiful, then they're not even significant. You know what I'm saying? And I think that comes out a lot. And so I might have a better perspective, but I don't have a well enough perspective than another woman, you know what I mean, that might have actually gone through that, same situation. I have conversations, and then all of a sudden, like, damn, I don't know how to answer this. You know what I'm saying? So I have to be honest with myself, you know what I mean? And that I can teach them the boxing, I can teach them this, and so on and so forth. And so, this is on the top of the year, I'm teaching self-defense to about 10 women between 16 to 22. And this is for Chili's on Wheels. They basically give vegan food out. They volunteer and give vegan food out to the homeless. And I'm going to be doing this in Brooklyn. And so I'm training them. They reach out to me, and I'm going to train them. And of course I train them. Of course I have folks that that I train, and I train them on the boxing in that aspect. But when it comes to outside and to that program work that needs a lot more healing, that's tough, because I know some of the issues. I mean, I'm trained to be a foster care parent, and I have an understanding of what a lot of the young girls and women, have gone through, to find them into those situations. And then they become so tough and so hardened as well, just like the boys become so tough and so hard. But I was those tough boys, and that's why I can explain that like the back of my hand. That's not a problem. But I come into, I become like, I don't know. Well, how am I giving these, how am I going to, all of a sudden they give like solutions on a lot of those issues. That, it's tough. It's very tough. It's tough for a lot of reasons. I think it's tough for a lot of reasons. We live in a system under, patriarchy. And where men dominate, so and essentially feel like we have the answers to everything, and we may have answers to a lot of different things, but we don't have answers, to everything. So I don't want to do that too. And then I have daughters, and sometimes, I feel like, I might not be able to answer this. And yeah, there are, single fathers, you know what I mean, who take care of girls themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, my wife is a prime example. You know what I mean? Her father, raised her and her sister. You know what I mean? So I definitely understand that. You know what I mean? How you can do that, but he had help from women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was pretending he could answer all the, all the questions. He had help. You know what I mean? But it was him at home, doing that for the most part. But when you have to do it, you have to do it. Just like when single mothers, when they have, their boys, you got to do what you got to do. Right. You got to do what you got to do. Yeah, you got to do what you got to. But then they also have men come in their life and they can help as well. Right. That's, so you have to respect what kind of skills set that I think that, men and women have, to their sex, I would say.
So for people that are interested in following you and purchasing your book and possibly working with you, where can they go to follow you and to find you? What information do you have out there? Can you provide us with that?
Yes. I would hope that the first place they go is Omowale.org, OMOWALE.org. And just get as much as information about me, there as possible. Okay. And also, I have contact information that's on the site. And they can also grab the book, Omowale.org. It's also available on Amazon as well.
Okay.
It's in print and Kindle form.
Okay.
Nice.
And let me ask you this: for a person that's just getting started on their journey of health and wellness, what advice would you give them?
I would say the first thing I would say first, drink a lot more water.
Yeah.
Drink water and do a detox first. But also, there's going to be so much information that's going to come at you, and it's going to make you think negatively, like, oh, all this food is it's awful. Take it one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
One day at a time. Just repeat, take pieces from it. Don't try to just jump all in. You already, before you didn't have any information.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you were doing whatever. So don't all of a sudden become like, oh, I know all of this now and I don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? No, you just take what you have and just start off on the best course. To start the best course that you have with the information that you have obtained so far.
Mm-hmm. And let's say if it was just one thing, only one thing that a person could do to have the biggest impact on their health, what would that one thing be that you would recommend?
A lot more water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A significant amount of water, just because it will flush a lot of the junk out of your system.
Yeah.
It would keep you living. It would do so much for your organs. Oh my goodness. We need so much water.
Yeah,
so
people don't understand the healing. Yeah, they don't understand the healing powers of water.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's real. It's crazy. We get people that come in and just tell us just the way that your one client told you that he doesn't like vegetables adamantly. We get people that adamantly tell us they don't like water on a regular basis. So
like saying they don't want the cure. That's like
right.
They don't want the cure.
Yeah, it's borderline coming in there saying, you know what, I don't like air.
Right.
Like it's gonna get to that point soon.
That's
So so yeah, I'm glad that you touched on that. It doesn't matter what you do health wise if you're not on point with your water. All of that stuff is not going to be able to be maximized and optimized. So
forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. So we're coming to an end of the show. We really appreciate you on the show. Very, very good things we discussed and brought to people's consciousness. Any parting words that you would like to share with our listeners?
I would say, folks, please go vegan, or at least get on that mark, and struggle to try to get healthier every day, and open your mind up into to the globe. This is just don't just look at it in terms of just one county or one city, one state, or just one nation. Just think it in terms of the globe, but act local. Mm-hmm. Act local. Think globally.
Nice.
Yeah. Great advice. Yeah.
So before we go, all of the information that we discussed in this interview with Wale, all his contact information, his website, his books, the great work that he's doing, just go to jkhealthtribe.com/Wale. Wale is WALE, and you can get that information. So before we go, Wale, thank you so much. This was a powerful interview.
Yeah.
And it's definitely going to help anyone who listens to it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you too for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
A great discussion with you guys.
Yeah, man. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
All right, brother.
All right, peace.
All right, peace.
So that is the conclusion of our interview with Wale. Such a powerful, powerful interview. And I want to thank Wale again for joining us. But before we go, just make sure that you join our email list at jkhealthtribe.com. That way you keep informed of anything that we're doing, upcoming podcast episodes, blog posts, webinars, anything that Jamal and I are doing in the future. Just make sure you get on that list. Okay, so until next time, live healthier.
We hope you enjoyed your time with Jamal and Kim's Inner Circle Health Tribe. To keep you on your path towards a happy, healthier lifestyle, we encourage you to visit jkhealthtribe.com for a free copy of the 8 effective ways to lose weight and keep it off, as well as more content to help you find your health balance. Thanks again, and we look forward to educating, empowering, and inspiring you to live healthier.